happy? A lot of you, right? How many of you are happy in what you are doing right now? Okay, not bad. How many of you are satisfied with what you are doing now? How many are satisfied in what you are doing? How many of you are engaged in what you are doing? Okay, fewer hands, but good. So what is the difference? I think that is a very, very important difference. And you had seen a video earlier about charity. You give to charity, you get happiness. But you are part of a charity, you are engaged. And what is very important for a lot of organizations now is not about having happy employees or about having satisfied employees. But it's important for organizations to have engaged employees. What is engagement? There is an enthusiasm for the job. You have more involvement. And I think the most important thing is there is a lot of discretionary effort that comes in. And that is what engagement does. In 1973, there was a very, very interesting book written by Dr. George Land called Grow or Die, which basically said that every organism goes through a growth curve. They go through an invention stage, a growth curve, and then die. The classic S curve that we are all familiar with. Which is true for individuals as well. So you might be happy, you might be satisfied, but if you are not really engaged, my argument is that growth is not happening. These days, with all the challenges that we have, all the uncertainty that we have, having engaged employees is a key aspect of any organization. But what are the challenges? For example, we do no longer have the boxes now. Jobs have become more cloud-like. I even say that there is no job description. Job descriptions are dead. We probably have job descriptions which are more and more dynamic. You have a job description, by the time you hire somebody for that job description has changed. Even from here, we have changed into a method where it's more, there is no hierarchy also. So you have probably contributions expected from every level in the organization. So hierarchy is getting blurred. So what should organizations do to engage employees? And I think my daughter, who is just 4 years old, asked me the other day, I am a grown-up now. I said, no, you are still not a grown-up, you have to grow further. Then, the thought came to my mind, when do we stop growing? From a physical sense, yes, your puberty, when you are 18, 20, probably your growth stops. For a long time, we believed that our brain stops growing. Yes, a lot of development of the brain happens initially, but the brain makes newer and newer connections every day. Our brain grows, makes connections till we die. So it's important that those connections are important. So it's important for organizations to use employees in a way that they are growing. That is what engagement does. So in one of the studies that I did, looking at India, in fact Gallup has done surveys across the globe, found out that the percentage of engaged employees is only 17%. Not engaged in the 59%. But I think the most toxic thing for organizations is that we have 24% which are actively disengaged. What does it mean for organizations as they are looking at competing with the world? So, what are some of the aspects that are affecting that? For example, you have organization culture, which is how things are done in the organization. But I think, these days, human resource consultants, researchers have complicated. But I think when I looked at the data, I said there are only 4 things which really matters. The culture is obviously holding it all together. The job is probably the most important thing. When I say the job is the most important thing, many times what happens is the job is defined very narrowly. It is important for organizations to have a place for creativity in their jobs. It's important for organizations to have innovation come in. One of the companies that I worked, we had to process a large number of tickets, and we made our agents do that. And they asked us, why can't we outsource this work? We said, okay, in the morning half you do this. We measured them on productivity, we measured them on quality, but we said that, if you can find a better way of doing it, do that. So what did they do? They found out ways of making sure that this work is never coming to them in the first place itself. So you give employees the space and ask them to come with a solution. That is when you are engaging employees. Many times what happens, we give them a dead-end job and we ask them to repeat the job day in and day out. So what happens? You all start with, and in the survey that I did, what was very interesting was, when employees are starting out, going to George Land's invention phase, the engagement levels are very high, to the tune of 80%. Think about when you started your jobs. Think about when you started a class. Think about when you started doing something very new. You're very excited about it, you're very engaged. You do that for 2 days, 3 days, then monotony sets in, and you stop engaging with that. That happens with the job as well. So it's important for organizations to redesign job in a way that employees are challenged, and that is one way of engaging them. Employees have an opportunity to give discretionary effort. What about the work environment? Work environment could probably be many times removing the distractions. Some of the companies that I work have government meals. They have haircut in office. They have laundry in office. What do? They're actually removing the distractions the software engineers are having so that they don't have to go and do that. It's taken care of. They have food in office, so they don't have to go 1 hour outside for having lunch and they are back. The idea is to remove distraction, but there is a very, very important difference here. It's not about giving everything that they need in the job. If you have everything you need in the job, then you're not challenged enough. So it's important for organizations to structure the job in a way that is always a challenge. You probably starve them a little bit. They ask for X, you give them X minus delta. Why? Because you want to challenge them to solve it. Otherwise, they're not challenged enough. That's why, good parenting, we always say the principles of good parenting is not to give your children everything that they want. They need to know there is effort to acquire certain things. If they get everything they want, they will probably never be challenged enough. They will never be growing in the real sense. The performance management, when you look at performance management, I think the key that is important to engage employees is, these days people are looking for recognition. In fact, they talk about the millennials being very different. From my study, what I found out is that I think what the millennials want, the earlier generations also want, just that they're not very vocal. They probably don't change us that often enough. What they all need is recognition for good work done. So do you have a right process which is taking care of that? Do you have recognition schemes which are probably more in tune with the times? When I say recognition schemes more in tune with the times, what do I mean? If the org structure has changed into a consulting kind of a mode from the earlier traditional structure, whether you have done good work is known only by your peers mostly, not by your manager or your manager's manager. How would you design a performance management system where the voice of your peers have a good weightage? Some of the organizations who have higher level of engagement are actually doing that. 360 degree appraisal is gone. Now, yes, we probably look at all the aspects, But I think people who work with you day in and day out will know what is the contribution you are making, because you work in a team. Your peers know you, how well you are doing. How do you create an environment you are challenged by your peers? So work environment is all those things put together. Do you have the right peers? Do you have the right managers who are communicating? And in performance management and recognition, what we really look at is that, is it an objective process? If you are just happy or satisfied with a system, we keep doing it again and again. If you are engaged with the system, we'll challenge the system. The performance appraisal systems of today need that challenge, need to be much more engaged with the people. Otherwise, what happens? It becomes a routine thing. And that is the trick the brain plays with us. We do one thing once, next time it becomes easy, third time it becomes muscle memory, so we'll go through the motions and we are not engaged. So what happens? The engagement scores comes down. So it's important for organizations to actually look at these three big things. Job redesign in a way that there is more entropy in the job. Entropy in the job is that you don't define the job very strictly. You have enough disorder in the job so that things can go around and the people can actually make an impact because they have the freedom, and autonomy is an important thing that people look for when they need engagement. So do they have, if there is higher entropy in the job definition that we have, in the dynamic job descriptions that we have, what it gives is the people a challenge. And that challenge calls for the discretionary efforts. That means that they get more engaged. And there they make the impact. The recognition, as I said, the peer recognition becomes an important thing. And the environment, another important aspect. They say that to engage employees, you need to always balance the demands and the resources that you provide. And that demand resources difference. If it's too much, it creates a stress. If it is something which is within a certain aspect of an aspirational value, it creates that push for that person. And the benefits that we need to design has to keep that in mind. Don't blindly copy the benefits that other companies have. Okay, this company is the best company to work for as its benefit, let me copy that. But you need to understand, okay, having that benefit, how is it going to engage your employees much more? I hope that as you think about your jobs, your life, your relationships with other people, you will be more engaged, and through that you will have a fuller life. Thank you.